thank you for joining us today. This is actually a discussion that I've wanted to have with a specialist here. I played sports in the early 2000s and took a couple of I guess little dings and got my bell rung. We'll get into that, but
Oh yeah.
Talking concussion here, and for some people that don't know it, what is a concussion?
So a concussion, it's a blow to the head and trunk area, and it's just a rapid acceleration, deceleration of your body. The brain gets jolted back and forth, and at that point, it's just an energy crisis in the brain, and the brain has a hard time processing information from other parts of the body.
And what are just some symptoms that you should look for, maybe if you do have a concussion, or what comes with that?
Yeah, most common symptoms would be headache and dizziness, and you can also have fogginess, nausea, light sensitivity, noise sensitivity, things like that, as well as neck pain.
And are there different levels of a concussion? I know some people say they have a mild concussion or a strong one, but are there certain levels that go with a concussion?
Can be. I mean, a lot of it's just based on symptom severity. As far as imaging goes, imaging is just used to rule out a brain bleed, and so that would be much more severe. And I mean, you're looking more at potential death, things like that. So if you go to the emergency room, some red flags that you're looking for are like seizures, repeated vomiting, potentially severe neck pain, loss of consciousness, slurred speech, things like that. And then you'd want to go to the emergency room and make sure you're not having a brain bleed.
And even if you get any of the smaller symptoms, should you go to the ER or a doctor, or when should you do that?
Yeah, so pretty much you're just going to monitor your symptoms for the next couple of hours. Common symptoms like I talked about are headache and dizziness and confusion, things like that. But if you're starting to have more of those red flags, again, severe neck pain, restricted neck movement, vomiting, slurred speech, if you're not recognizing people around you, then those would be signs where you need to go and get checked out a little bit more in depth. At that point, I'd go to the emergency room.
Can it just take one concussion to give you like permanent brain damage, or is that multiple concussions?
Yeah, usually it's going to be multiple. I mean, it does depend on the severity of it, but for the most part, it's more of repeated blows that you're not getting healed from. So if you have a concussion and you just ignore it and you still have headaches and dizziness, and then you continue to either play or just go about life and you get another concussion, same thing if you don't let it heal properly and you get another concussion, that's when you're really going to be at risk for long-term effects. And so that's why it's so important to recognize concussion and allow yourself to heal. As long as you heal in between concussions, it's been shown that repeated concussions don't necessarily have an effect as long as you're healing in between those concussions.
And is it easier after your first concussion to get another one?
I don't believe so. I don't believe that there's really any research showing that necessarily. Again, as long as you heal in between those concussions.
Okay. I know in the last, I think, 10, 15 years, concussions have really come to the forefront of sports, and especially in sports. I mean, we had a movie come out about it and everything like that. But just how has concussion prevention and awareness evolved over the last 10, 15 years? Because like I said at the beginning, I played from 2002 to 2006, and you feel like you got your bell rung, you may be a little woozy, but you're right back out there, and nobody's nonetheless thinking that you're fine, except unless if you do get lit up and then you're just out of it, then thinking maybe it's a concussion. But just how has that evolved over the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, there's been tons of research coming out, like you said, those past 10 to 15 years talking about concussion and looking more at the effects of it. I think one thing is just preventing it by trying to have good techniques for your sports. So, I mean, not just football, but I mean, football is huge as far as how your tackling mechanics are. And then as far as research goes, it's more of the treatment and how to heal from that concussion, and looking more at therapy with either neck treatment for your neck, treatment for your eye function or inner ear function, things like that.
And I've seen, especially in football, but we'll stick with that for a moment. They're going
Mm-hmm.
out new helmets, things like that. Has the new helmet technology helped keep concussions down, or is that just maybe like a placebo effect where it looks newer, maybe it's going to help us out?
That's a great question. I believe it's a combination of having the helmet plus your awareness of it a lot more. And again, hopefully practicing good techniques with your tackling, your form, strength and conditioning, things like that. So I believe it's helped some, but probably a combination of a lot of different parts.
If you were to get a concussion, we hear him talk about concussion protocol, especially in the NFL. What would a protocol
Mm-hmm.
be for, say, a high school athlete that they don't have access to a trauma doctor on the sidelines, anything like that? They just have their coaches and their family.
Yeah, so you're going to be basically taking them away from their sport if you suspect that concussion, and the students get a rest for the next 24 to 48 hours and just monitor their symptoms. Hopefully, with resting, their symptoms will calm down, but that's when you're going to be watching for those worsening symptoms, red flags, things like that. And then, as far as concussion protocol goes, really, we follow what is considered the Berlin guidelines. So that's in our state practice act for physical therapy. Like around 2016, 2017, they developed a statement in Berlin, just like a huge international conference. And I think that's what most professional sports, college sports all follow. So essentially, it's 6 phases. Phase one is you want to be able to get to your normal daily activities, schoolwork, things like that without any symptoms. So to get there, it's just starting with rest and then just controlled movement, hopefully rehab, things like that. And once you can do all that, then you just go to the next phase, which is low activity or light activity, light exercise, and then the next phase is moderate. Next phase is more severe intensity exercise, and then eventually going back to your practice and games.
And with that, is it possible that, say, you have two people have the same type, I guess, of concussion, but their recovery time be different?
Yeah, absolutely. Concussions affect everybody differently. Sometimes it could look not super intense, but you might have severe symptoms, whereas the other way around, you get a big head injury from a sport, either a ball hits you or, again, a tackle, and it looks really bad. And then you may not have as severe symptoms. And it could vary from same person, just different injuries down the road. It's just all very different with your symptoms.
Is there any way that you could help prevent having a concussion other than the right headwear or anything like that? Is there anything that you can do to your body, like I guess eating the right things or working out, things like that? Is there any way that you could help prevent it?
I think it's still being researched. I don't know if there's really anything definitive. Do know that they're looking at like neck strength as well. Yeah, that's still a part that's being looked at more and more. But I would definitely think that any type of upper body strengthening, neck strengthening that you can do on your strength and conditioning program would be beneficial.
Okay. Also, we talk about football, and I know soccer as well. That your head's being used a lot, headers and collisions, things like that. But you can get a concussion in pretty much any sport, correct?
Yep, yeah, you can get a concussion in any sport. You don't have to get necessarily hit in the head. It can be a blow to the body, and your head gets moved back and forth quickly. But yeah, it can be in any sport.
Does your knowledge of concussions make you view sports differently than maybe the casual fan?
Uh, that's a great question. I'm not really sure. I've never really thought about it like that. I guess a little bit, and I just know what the long-term effects of concussions are, and just the importance of recognizing the symptoms and the signs of that, and sometimes it's important to just take a step back and monitor your symptoms and make sure you heal properly so you can play up to your capacity.
Yeah, I know here, us in the sports media field, we're always watching broadcasts thinking, oh, he could do this right, do this right. I don't know if you're watching things, a collision, like, hey, that could be a concussion or that could be like a head trauma or something like that, pointing things out from your field.
Yeah, there's some of that.
Yeah. Are you a sports fan other than just taking care of these kids down at Knox Community?
Yeah, I'm a big sports fan. Grew up Cleveland area, so I like Cleveland sports, and then went to Ohio State, so I like the Buckeyes.
Okay. All right. Very good. Is there anything else that people should know, even especially maybe coaches or parents, about just concussions protocol, things like that, that maybe they don't know as of yet?
I think just it's important to just recognize what you're feeling and again, just take a step back. Don't try to plow through it and think that you're gonna just kind of fight through it like other injuries. It's important just to take a step back, recognize what you have, and then again, concussion protocol is going through a series of phases and progressively adding a little bit more and more intensity to that workout routine and making sure that you are back to normal before you get back to practicing games.
And are you going to be on any of the fields this year, or is it something where the paramedics will be bringing? I know we have a lot of Knox Morrow teams down there playing football and other things. Do you guys go to the fields, or is it just something that if something were to happen, the transporters and the ambulances that they have there bring them to you?
Yeah, so we do have, I'm not personally on the field, we do have athletic trainers in a few of the schools in the area. So we have athletic trainers at Danville, Centerburg, East Knox, Utica, and Fredericktown. So they'll be on the field and they can assess the student athletes. So if they recognize a concussion and they think that they need therapy, then they'll send them our way. Other times, if they go to the emergency room, sometimes we'll get referrals from the emergency room at KCH, and then we'll see them in the next couple of days, or if they saw their primary doctor, they'll get a referral from them.
All right. Well, Mark, I really appreciate the time. And for you folks, this is the first of 4 talks we're going to have with different professionals at Knox Community Hospital. But I do appreciate the time, and I really thank you for this conversation, because now I know more about concussions. I hope our fans, our athletes, and our parents do know a little bit more, and can help them see what happens with a concussion. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks, Mark. That was Mark Connell, the doctor of physical therapy at Knox Community Hospital. That was very, very informative for everybody. Like I said, back in the early 2000s, there really wasn't much for concussion protocol. There was one time we had our quarterback got hit pretty hard, and he was out of it. He came out of the game. But there's other times where even we got hit. We got a little woozy for a second, came back out there. You never know. We might have had a concussion, and that might happen still with players around this area and around the world. But hopefully how concussion awareness, how prevention, how the research has come is going to help out, especially in the future, because we've seen with some NFL players, there are long-term effects. It could lead to some crazy things. So hopefully this is the start of some good things, especially concussion-wise, and we can just hope that the manufacturers of helmets and padding and stuff can just continue to help prevent that. Like I said, that's the first of 4 talks we'll have with some professionals down at Knox Community Hospital. We'll have different aspects of that field, first a concussion, and we'll go on some other things.